Welcome to the first video on the new channel. Lots of people got lost on the way here, so good job. I'm Jarvis. I'm a software engineer in San Francisco, and today I wanted to talk about a lot of the mistakes that beginners make when they're getting into programming. It's a combination of things I struggle with myself, trends that I noticed while I was a teaching assistant in college, things that came from my peers, and a lot of the questions that I've gotten since I started making stuff on YouTube. I think these things will be valuable tools to have while you're learning to code, whether you're a student in college or boot camp or self-teaching, or just like a person in general. Wide appeal. So the first mistake that I see a lot of new programmers making is trying to learn a lot of brand new programming languages at once, or technologies for that matter. This is the breadth over depth approach. I talk to a lot of college kids who think it's really impressive to have Python, Java, C, C++, D, F, other letters of the alphabet on their resume. And sure, it's nice to have a diversity of languages under your belt, but it's not nearly as important as people think it is. The main reason being, it's not that hard to learn a new programming language once you know one really well. And spreading yourself too thin too early is going to be discouraging and ultimately counterproductive. Unless your goal is to, I don't know, be able to print hello world in like 20 languages, in which case, go ahead. But no recruiter is gonna care if you have 20 languages listed on your resume if you aren't strong in one of them. And the same goes for like general technologies, especially on the web. Sure, to build a web application, you may need a passing knowledge of HTML, JavaScript, CSS, and then some sort of backend technology, like maybe it's JavaScript and Node or Python and Flask or something. But don't bog yourself down in like the dozens of frameworks that are available to solve the problem at hand. If there's like a technology that's been around for a while and is still really popular, just pick that, because it's less likely to go away in a year and you won't have like wasted that investment learning. One final note here is that breadth in languages generally is a bit different than like breadth in programming paradigms or even like layers in the stack. What I mean is that some languages are built for specific purposes. So you might have to use C if you want to do low-level embedded systems programming, and you might have to use JavaScript if you want to program dynamic behavior on the web, front-end behavior. And with regard to paradigms, because there's like different ways and different methodologies for even writing code, like functional programming, you wouldn't go to Java to do functional programming typically. Just as you wouldn't use Lisp for the ever-dying paradigm of object-oriented programming. Anyway, TLDR, languages are good at different things, but even still, just focus on one that solves a problem that you really want to solve and then get good at that language. All right, for the others, I gotta speed up a little bit. Next is one that I saw a ton with my students when I was a teaching assistant, and I made a whole video about it, but it's just like not trying something or not starting on a project. A lot of people are afraid to take that initial leap into making something because they're afraid they'll fail or it won't be as perfect as they imagined it in their head. And that's okay, just do it anyway. I found that one of the most effective techniques for solving problems, both technical and general, is just to start small and iterate. When you start small, you can start to build momentum on the tiny things that you're able to accomplish, and those together will make up like the larger goal, I guess. Like, say you want to make a copy of YouTube. There's so many components of YouTube, that's a very big task to just like take off at once. But maybe you focus on watching a video that's hosted on your computer on someone else's computer. So you've got to figure out how to like stream video. So that's like one component. And if you get that, then that's actually a pretty major part of solving the problem. Or maybe that's really daunting and you want to first start with building user accounts so that users can like log into your system and provide their data or something. When you break problems up, they're just much easier to reason about. Like every big thing is broken up of smaller things. So the next one is huge and something that I still struggle with, which is comparing yourself to others. It's human nature, but it can still be really demoralizing and misleading. Just because someone seems like a really talented programmer doesn't mean that they're not working like really hard to put up that appearance, or that they had some prior experience and prior training, or they have a natural knack for it. But what all those things have in common is that they don't concern you. So focus on what you can control instead of comparing yourself to others, because looking at your own growth is going to be far more meaningful than comparing, I don't know, what's that metaphor? Like comparing their marathon or comparing you just might be at different stages in your journey. Like maybe they start really strong and then get demotivated a year in, and maybe you start slow, but 2 years in, you become really successful. I don't know, just like if you're enjoying it, keep doing that and don't worry about others. A related note is to try not to connect your code to your self-worth. I think for better or for worse. Like a lot of people who will tell you that you're not a real programmer or something like that, or at least have done so in my comments, are probably just projecting their own insecurity with their own abilities. So just remember that you're not your output, regardless of whether or not it's good or bad. Another gigantic mistake that beginners make is not knowing when to ask for help. This is also covered in a previous video, but yeah, just people feeling really afraid, like they're gonna embarrass themselves, like people will see them differently if they ask for help, but no one accomplishes anything alone. Society is built by teams of people, not by individuals, and someone is getting help one way or the other. So just go ahead and ask, because at the end of the day, you'll have the answers, and the people like judging you for getting help, if those people exist, I don't know, there's nothing they can do. You've solved your problem. Okay, last but not least, this is one that I managed to avoid by just sheer luck, but not finding your community is a thing that I think troubles a lot of people. Programming can be a very isolating task, and one thing that was really beneficial for me was having a group of people with similar, starting points and similar goals who could all help bring each other up. John Green just did a great video on Tetris and how people have gotten really good at Tetris in the past 20 years. And programming is the same way. Like, it's the power of the community really brings us all up. So definitely make sure that you are a part of the community rather than, being isolated from it. Any community. Also, if you want to work as a programmer or a software engineer, you're going to be working on teams. So connecting yourself to the social aspect of software engineering as early as possible is going to be best. Okay, so I've droned on long enough, but I have a couple of things that I'm not going to talk about here, but maybe I'll talk about in a future video. One is that thinking just because the technology is new that it's good. I see a lot of people doing that. Thinking that testing is a waste of time, or thinking that testing is slowing you down. That's another thing a lot of beginners get, and actually a lot of people in general just get hung up on. And over engineering your code when, the simplest solutions are like the unsexy but straightforward ones. More on those later if you're interested. Let me know in the comments. So thanks for watching. First new video on this channel. Maybe the next one won't be about tech, but I figured I'd throw y'all a bone since it's been a while. It was super easy to write this, and I feel like there's a ton of these that I can pump out more frequently than on my other channel, where my videos nowadays take me way longer to make. Was this boring? I know it wasn't like super funny or anything, but hopefully the information was valuable. I don't know. Anyway, see you next time.